birthed into this world, they took your soul print off you, and now you're legally dead. You're in the land of the dead. And these concepts, they're exactly this way for a reason. There's a book of life with 144,000 names. These are living beings that have bodies above the firmament to go back to. The rest of the people in here are already dead. Everything's a book of the dead. You went to grammar school to learn your book of the dead. Okay, every word you speak is a magic spell. You are a spellcaster, and you've lost all your divinity. And how I gained mine back was spilling up my blood into the earth, asking this great spirit of this earth for guidance. You call that great spirit Lucifer, and this is what's guiding me. And I'm telling you, this has given me all the knowledge I need to take over this world, whether anybody likes it or not. Get everybody to the Holy Grail. So you want to alter reality. You look at any religious building there, you see they have an altar. That's for you to make your sacrifices for your whatever sins you need to make atonement for. And this is how shit's set up. An altar, it doesn't matter what religion. You can say, that person's a witch. You went to school to learn your magic spells. You took your test with your number 2 shit pencil. You sit in a pew because you're focusing all your intent onto the ash-trailing light. The black hole sun has the astral light, ash-trailing light coming out of the black hole sun. It's one side of a light hole. That's the sun above your head. The other side is a black hole beneath your feet. It's one coin with 2 sides. It's parallel universes. The black sun beneath your feet is fixed so that the green astral jet can come shooting out through the Holy of Holies at the very center of the flat earth plane, hit the parabolic mirror and shower down on you. This is the Aurora Borealis. It's a flat earth plane. You're on the altar right now. I spilt my blood up into the earth. The earth is an altar. And I've altered reality by gaining knowledge that nobody has and distributing it out. We're going to get to the Holy Grail before we're dead. I can see that every compass is pointing to the very center of the flat earth plane. And this is where Jesus the Son places his light into the hole. You take communion, you're the black hole. You bow your head in prayer to the black sun. You close your eyes, make a wish for the black sun. You throw the coin in the wishing well for the black sun. You blow in the dice for the black sun. Look at your... It doesn't matter what religion you are. You go around the cube, you know, in Mecca, you put the cube on your head if you're Jewish, and on your arm, you unfold your cube and wear it around your neck as your cross, because you're crossing confused. You can't see that every compass is pointing to the Holy Grail, where you get eternal life and your way out of the matrix. And I'll be going there in a year. And I'm going to go get my eternal life. I'm going to come back, release all the information, and then we're going to have an exodus there in 2019. You know, I'm going to change reality. People say, why do you have to talk with such a bad attitude? I'll remind you often, I'm done playing games, people. This fucking world is mine. I know I'm here for a reason, and nobody has to like it. I can take over the world from the comfort of home because there's nothing illegal about it. Making videos, pointing at the Holy Grail. Eventually, I'm going to wake up enough people to get us all eternal life and get us into the Garden of Eden, or wake the fuck up above the waters in your real body. You can't even grasp this idea that you're in the matrix, that it's one electron, one positron, one light hole, one black hole, on loop through the Holy of Holies, that the Aurora Borealis is the infinite potential, the Earth's memory, Lucifer, the goddess of the earth. And this is what's guiding me. When I tell you, originally I started looking at the sun and speaking my intent, and I spilt up my blood into the dry earth, asking the Great Spirit for guidance. And she showed me her holy hole and how to take over the universe without anybody liking it or not. Nobody even sees what the fuck is going on. They all think they're on a ball floating through space as monkeys. And it's pitiful. Okay.
Blood magic and occult things involving blood seems to be very much back in the news again. Anyone who's studied the history of National Socialism knows very well that the basic underlying aspect of Ariosophy, which is the religious cult, well, the occult movement from which National Socialism was spawned through Lance van Dietenspel and on through the Knights of the Templar Society and on through the Thule Society, was the belief that blood had a special magical power. Blood had the ability to transmit more than just the life force of a human being. That blood itself had a special kind of magic, and that blood is is basically a kind of a magical force, and the human body basically exists to contain the blood. So, in the case of you had Ariosophy, the belief of Ariosophy was that the human being, the person themselves, was not as important as the blood that they actually carried inside their bodies to flow through their veins and through their heart. This was the real essence of the person. That was their true identity. And the Ariosophists and later the Thulists and the Nicetists, the Order of the Templars under Van Leeuwenspel, their belief was that Aryan blood was a sacred kind of blood, that the blood was unique and a constant ongoing purification of the blood inside through breeding. And this is where the whole idea of the master race and this kind of selective breeding that the SS undertook, the idea was that eventually that a state of godhood would be achieved, and at that point these beings living inside the earth from a fictional novel called the Vril, or the Vrilya was the name of the race, would return to the surface of the planet and herald in a kind of an angelic existence within a kind of a new dimension of human experience, but only it could only be done through the purification of Aryan blood through selective breeding. So blood magic has a long and, shall we say, notorious history. It basically led to the rise of world Adolf Hitler and the Third Reich, and it played a huge part in the ideas of ethnic cleansing, racial superiority, and this kind of idea. Now, blood does have a powerful, shall we say, supernatural aspect to it. It's more than just hemoglobin. It's more just red and white cells you know, carrying throughout your body. It's deeper than that. It's always now. It seems to be now back in the news. First, we had this whole thing at the spirit cooking fiasco in Comet Ping Pong Pizza in Washington D.C. This idea of the performance artist Abramovich, her thing involving blood, corpses, and this like essentially the idea of blood being charged as a charged force was very much part of the art, and it tied in very deeply with the spirit cooking thing, Podesta pizza, and we're probably never going to get the truth about that, but it's very interesting. I look at these things from the bigger picture. I see things in terms of synchronistic philosophies almost. Now, there was another story that came out recently of a woman who's making cakes used for her husband, or using her menstrual blood. Now, this is actually a forbidden practice this is would be the nearest thing to dark sorcery you get in in folk magic. It's comes mainly from West Africa, but was imported into Latin and Central America by black slaves, picked up by Latino Americans and also by people in Creole cultures. And basically, what it involves is that the blood, if a man consumes the blood of a woman, he becomes obsessed with her. Has been known in not just within ancient times, well, we should say like 200 years ago, but it still goes on. Santeria practitioners in New York to this day discourage women from using this as a love spell, because if something happens where the relationship went sour and she didn't want him anymore, she can't get rid of him. So it's a very dark, dark form of magic. It's considered within the occult, the idea of ingesting menstrual blood. Menstrual blood should be only really put back into the earth, as it was traditionally done in just about everywhere to fertilize the soil. Menstrual blood was put back into the earth. It had a special significance in ancient Irish society, as Ireland, the country of Ireland itself, was seen as a woman, Eru, and by putting woman's menstrual blood back into the soil, you're actually giving life to the goddess Era. And so it's a very deep thing. I think, even, don't quote me on this, but I have a vague recollection of, I believe that under the Irish Brehon laws, it was forbidden for a man to perform oral sex with a woman while she was on her period for the same reason. It becomes like it becomes a drug of insanity and obsession, a kind of a fascination type drug, a very intense form of sympathetic magic. This brings us to a story that's recently come out this week, and it's what happened in Naples at the shrine of San Gerano. Now, San Gerano is blood is contained in a vessel, and is a miracle performed every year where the vessel is taken out and turned, and the blood liquefies. Well, it didn't happen this year. Now, apparently, the only time it did happen before, didn't liquefy before, was 1939. Now, the parishioners of this church, of this congregation, are under the belief that if the blood doesn't liquefy, the year ahead will be very bad. The future is going to be very bad. So this caused a kind of a stir within this congregation in Naples and among fundamentalist Catholics that now 2017 could be a year of war, for the simple reason that the blood of San Gennaro did not liquefy. But it's just, without that, let's leave that to one side. It doesn't necessarily have to believe these prophecies or whatever. I find it very interesting that we have a sudden increase and a sudden um, awareness of blood magic again. This has, it's into the fore, between the whole idea of Abramovich, the spirit cooking, and the performance art aspects of that, and what that may lead to, and other things. Also, we have the recent story of the woman who feeds her husband menstrual blood in cakes in order to spellbind him, and now this story. Now, usually when they come in three like this, it's significant. So we may be on the cusp of something very interesting here in terms of the synchronistic dynamics around us regarding blood. Now, blood has, you think back to things like AIDS, the days of AIDS in the 80s. Blood was almost seen as a terrifying thing, a terrifying thing. Don't go near blood. Blood is infected, HIV, and all this kind of thing. Our life force. So blood has always been associated almost like a dark magic aspect of us. You think of vampires, you think of that kind of thing. Blood sorcery, blood magic is very much back in the news now. And like anything else that happens among the popular zeitgeist, it's reflecting something at the very deep level of the collective unconscious. So keep watching out for these stories involving anything to do with blood. We may be tapping into something bigger here, but it's an interesting development, and definitely blood sorcery is back on the agenda.
And then if you got anything else you want to sum it up, we can just make a quick video.
Sure.
All right.
Sounds good.
You start recording?
Yeah, I've already started.
All right. We'll get it up. So, first question. So, in which manner does the sun communicate and give you answers back when you sun gaze?
I just wake up with. I wake up with new information. I just wake up with new information.
Yeah.
Just every day I wake up. You see, I'm always rolling forward. That's because every day I wake up with new, exciting ideas in my head.
Okay. And what initially made you spill your blood?
I was reading about how the elite spilled children's blood over their intent to rule over us, and I said I better write out on a piece of paper. I got this burning idea. The sun made me see it. It's just, the sun made me see it. I was, I had to figure this out, and I knew I just knew something had to do with the blood. If they keep spilling all those children's blood, maybe there's something to this blood. And that was where I got my first realization that the power is in the blood. And now here I am, just a little bit over 3 years, and I can see this shit is fucking real. Holy crap. You know what I mean? It's the Philosopher's Stone. Who would have thought? I mean, if I had done this years ago, think of how far ahead we'd all be, It's crazy.
Yeah.
But it takes a long time to get to the realization that they've been sacrificing children for the blood. And what's with this blood? Why the blood? And then after doing and publishing it and stuff like this, I started to figure shit out. So it is what it is, It's destiny.
Absolutely.
Was it really the blood over intent, or was I born as Satan? You know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I mean? I mean, really, because look, like I was talking to Devin before, I have to stand here as Satan specifically because Jesus is the Son, and it doesn't matter what anybody likes. We're the ones who got all the answers. Nobody's going anywhere without me. They don't have to like it. None of them can see shit unless I spell it out for them. I mean, it's pitiful, you know. So what I'm saying is, was it the blood over intent, or am I really born as Satan? You tell me. I think it's the power of the blood, and I wasn't born as Satan. I think I got the eyes to see after looking at the Son. The Son told me, this is Jesus, and, you know, and then I have to stand here as this because all these people swear on a freaking Bible when they go to court, and that Bible says this is Satan's world. And, you know, it's funny how things turn out. It's just funny. We were all Jesus freaks at one point, you know?
That's right.
All right, so we got another one.
Were we not all fucking Jesus freaks at one point?
Yeah, absolutely.
At least some of us Christians.
Did we all not? We were all like, am I in the right religion? What religion? What military order are you from? You're all in a military order. I'm here, you know, as no military order. This is my fucking world. This, you know, I mean, this is biblical type stuff. I mean, listen, in a couple of years, we're all going to have eternal life. Nobody can stop us. This shit turns out to be real.
Right, yeah, it changes when you go from putting the power outside of yourself, thinking, oh God, somebody else saved me. Then you realize, wait, it was me the whole time that could save myself. And that's when it just becomes crazy because it's like, man, what if I didn't realize this? But then you think, you know what, it's his destiny and I had to wake up sometime and now's the time. So it's going to happen eventually with everybody.